Hi my friends, I'm your bartender Mike and welcome to the Lion's Lounge, where today we'll be making some cocktails inspired by the Gungrave franchise. This is a companion video to another one coming out around the same time. So if you want some more context on these cocktails and you want to see my full deep dive on Gungrave, check out that video first that's linked in the description below. With that being said, let's get into it. So the first cocktail I featured in the video is Beyond the Grave. This is essentially a zombie variation, and zombies are basically a mix of various rums and juices. This particular version contains 3 different types of rum, as well as Applejack, which is an apple brandy, lime juice, pineapple juice, and pomegranate juice. So this is gonna be a shake and drink, and you're gonna start with 1 ounce or 30 milliliters of a dark Jamaican rum. I'm using Myers. Next, 1.5 ounces or 45 milliliters of an Anejo Rum. I'm using Brugal. Then 1.5 ounces or 45 milliliters of a White Rum. I'm just using Bacardi. Next, 3/4 ounce or 22.5 milliliters of Applejack. I recommend Laird's here. Then I'm gonna add 1 ounce or 30 milliliters of fresh lime juice, preserving the lime husk for later. 3/4 ounce or 22.5 milliliters of pineapple juice, then 1/2 ounce or 15 milliliters of pomegranate juice. And for a touch more sweetness, I'm gonna add 1/2 ounce or 15 milliliters of simple syrup. And lastly, just a dash of Angostura bitters. Add some ice and give it a shake for about 12 seconds. Then take a highball glass and add some cracked ice into the glass. Then just strain into the glass. Make sure to leave some room at the top. And for garnish, I'm gonna take one of the discarded lime halves, drop it into the glass, then add a sugar cube and soak it in 151 rum. Then I'm gonna very carefully light the sugar cube and use some cinnamon to help the flame shoot up a little bit. Then when you're ready, blow it out and just nudge the lime boat so it flips over a little bit. And there you have Beyond the Grave. Cheers. Like other zombie variations, this is an extremely strong tropical cocktail. I'd say given the ingredients here, it's a little more approachable than some of the other ones because those are kind of just meant to get you drunk and the flavors aren't really as big of a deal. That being said, there are plenty of zombie cocktails I found that are actually pretty good. This one I'd say is more on the funkier, sweeter side. And by that I mean the Jamaican rum lends it so that you get some overripe banana notes, and then you get some tartness from the lime juice and the pomegranate juice, and some sweetness from that Applejack. Pineapple juice, of course, is there as well and provides some extra sweetness too. Overall, pretty good. Next up, we have the Expensive Honesty, which I specifically made for Harry McDowell in the anime. As I mentioned in the main video, Harry is a big fan of bourbon, and there's one particular scene where he's having a conversation with Big Daddy talking about bourbon versus whiskey. And it's actually a pretty cool conversation that is one of the few times I completely agreed with Harry's view. So because of this, I wanted to make a different kind of bourbon cocktail. So I actually found this cocktail that combines bourbon as well as 2 different types of rum and different bitters. And the name itself kind of caught my eye given Harry's nature. So this is gonna be another shake and drink that you're gonna start with 1 ounce or 30 milliliters of bourbon. I recommend you try and shoot for something that's at least 45 to 50% like this Larceny. Next up, 1 ounce or 30 milliliters of an Anejo Rum, which you can use your Brugal again. Then 1/2 ounce or 15 milliliters of Ron Zacapa. This is a Guatemalan rum blend that comes from rums aged between 8 and 23 years. Then 1/4 ounce or 7.5 milliliters of Demerara Simple Syrup. Same thing, 1/4 ounce or 7.5 milliliters of honey syrup. Then a dash of Angostura bitters. And lastly, a dash of Peychaud's bitters. Again, add some ice and give it a shake for about 12 seconds. Then take a double old-fashioned glass and add a large ice cube to the glass. Strain over the ice and garnish with an orange peel. And there you have the Expensive Honesty. Cheers. This is actually a extremely good drink that kind of makes me think of a old-fashioned variation, and more specifically the old-fashions that I make. What you get here with this bourbon combined with these different rums, the bitters, all that kind of stuff, is a very sweet, sugary, spicy cocktail. And by spicy, I don't mean hot, I mean baking spices. The bourbon itself already has some baking spice notes, some vanilla. But these rums as well provide some Demerara sugar, some honey sweetness. The Angostura and Peychaud's bitters add some complex spiciness as well. Initially, you just get that honey sweetness, but it very quickly fades into the baking spices and more specifically, those Demerara sugar notes. It's a good cocktail, but I wouldn't say it's something that's constantly evolving. It's not changing as you drink it over time. it's kind of just a quick evolution. But I'm not knocking it. This is probably my favorite cocktail of the 3 I made, but it's kind of perfect for me because I love bourbon. My final cocktail for this evening is the easiest of the 3 as it only requires 4 base ingredients. This is the Rocketbilly Red for Gungrave Overdose, or more specifically, Rocketbilly Red Cadillac. As I mentioned in the main video, Billy is a new character in Gungrave, and his aesthetics are red and yellow. He's also a ghost that controls an electric guitar that shoots electricity. So I figured I wanted a red cocktail with a little bit of kick to it, and the kick here is going to be ginger beer. So to start things off, you're gonna want 1 ounce or 30 milliliters of a rye whiskey, more specifically one that's 100 proof. Next, ½ ounce or 15 milliliters of Cointreau. This is considered an orange liqueur, but it's 40%, so it's basically just an orange liquor. Then 2 ounces or 60 milliliters of cranberry juice. Add some ice and give it a shake for about 12 seconds. And lastly, I'm just gonna top this up with some ginger beer. I like to use Fever Tree. And for garnish, I'm gonna use a lemon twist that I made into a heart, as Billy is a huge romantic. And there we have the Rocketbilly Red. Cheers. This is a lot spicier than you'd think. It's very ginger forward, but there's still some sweetness from that cranberry juice and a little bit of spiciness on the back end from the rye whiskey. Overall, not as complex as the other cocktails, but still pretty enjoyable, and I love the color aesthetic. I also love how the orange liquor is there in the background, but not overpowering. You gotta be really careful when you use something like Cointreau because it is 40% and it could overthrow the balance of your drinks. But in this case, this is pretty good. And with that, we've reached the end of the video. I hope out of these 3 cocktails, you can find at least one that you enjoy, whether it be Beyond the Grave, the Expensive Honesty, or the Rocketbilly Red. And if there's any cocktails you'd like me to make based on your favorite series, let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you give it a like. And if you wanna see more, go ahead and subscribe. If you wanna see what I make outside this channel, follow me on Twitter at Mr. Space Lion, or Instagram at Mr.Spacelion. But friends, thank you so much for stopping by the Lions Lounge. I've been your bartender, Mike, and I hope to see you next time.